Good morning, my dear students. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are fine. For today's session, inshallah, will be novel. Today, we're going to talk about the novel that you're going to study this year, inshallah. It's entitled A Tale of Two Cities. Of course, this is an interesting novel. You know a lot about this novel, inshallah. In these sessions, I'm going to introduce the characters for you, and I'm going to introduce many things for you right now. A Tale of Two Cities. This is the writer Charles Dickens. This story is talking about two cities from its name. One is Paris in France, and the other city is London in Britain, of course. There are between those two cities, there are a lot of events that's occurring and a lot of interesting events. That's why I want you to take care with every single word I'm saying about the characters here. Let's start by introducing our characters. Mr. Jarvis Lorry. Mr. Jarvis Lorry is a 60-year-old English banker who works for Tilson Bank. He devoted his life for work. He had a business relationship with Dr. Manet, who was a former client in Tellson's bank. He brought Lois Manet back to safety in England to be raised there after her mother's death and her father's imprisonment. He is a loyal friend to Manet's family. So one of the most important characters in this story and one of the main characters in this story is Mr. Jarvis Lorry. He's an old man, old English banker. He works for Tennyson's Bank. This man, I think, all the events of the story, it plays an important role in the events of the story. You have to take care of what I'm saying. This man was brought to Lois Manet back to safety in England to be raised there after her mother's death. Of course, someone could ask, Mister, we don't know who is Lois Manet. Don't worry, I'm going to introduce this character for you right now. But the information I want you to take care of, which is Lois Manet, I'm talking about Mr. Jarvis Lorry. He was brought to Lois Manet back to safety in England to be raised after their mother's death and her father's imprisonment. He's a loyal friend to Manet's family. I'm just talking about Mr. Jarvis Lorry. Let's move to introduce Lois Manet. Lois Manet, a daughter of English mother and French father. So she is a half French and the second half is British. A daughter of English mother and French father. She became an orphan after her father mysteriously imprisoned in the Bastille and their mother died. He is a golden-haired, blue-eyed in her eyedness. All these years, she thought that her father is dead. She inspires great love and loyalty in others. So, Louise Manet again is a daughter of English mother and French father. She became an orphan after her father mysteriously imprisoned in the Bastille and her mother died. She is golden haired. She's golden hair, blue eye, and hair eyedness. In her 18s, I'm sorry, she's in her 18s. All these years, she thought that her father is dead. She inspires great love and loyalty in others. Let's move to the next personality, which is Miss Pross. She is the English caretaker of Lois while Dr. Manet was in prison. A large woman with wild red hair and red face. She is a large woman with a wild red hair and red face. Guys, I want you to concentrate in this description of these people. I want you to imagine these people in your mind. Because just imagination for these people in your mind will create an image for those people that will help you to understand the events a lot. Again, I'm talking about Miss Pross. She is the English caretaker. Of course, you know the meaning of caretaker. It's a person takes care of people or old people like nursery. Uh, she is the English caretaker of Lois while Dr. Malik was imprisoned. While Dr. Malik was in prison, so she is the caretaker of Lois Manit while Dr. Malik was in prison. She is a large woman with a wild red hair and red face. She accompanies Lois to wherever she goes. She goes wherever she goes. She hates everything not English. Oh, imagine this woman hates everything not English. She doesn't love English at all. She seems ready to help into a battle for her Ladybird Lewis. Yeah. And here an information I want you to take care for this information. I want you to create an image about this woman. She hates everything not English. She seems ready to leap into a battle for her Ladybird, Ladybird Lois. Yeah, she loves her so much. That's me. This is the meaning of it. She's ready to leap into a battle for her Ladybird Lois. It means she loves her so much. And let's move to Jerry Cruncher. Jerry Cruncher, he was errand boy. He was a errand boy of Tellenson's bank who was employed to take messages. Again, he was the errand boy of Tellenson's bank who was employed to take messages. Yeah, the job of this man is to take the messages from the bank and send it to Tellenson's, take it from Tellenson's bank and send it to people's who are dealing with the bank. And of course, not all the people, just the people who are involved in our novel this year, inshallah. The places, the most important places in this novel, I'm going to talk about Bank, Tellson's Bank, old-fashioned place. What I'm saying, old-fashioned, my dear students, it means that this place is very old. Yeah. Which has two branches in London and Paris. So it's international bank. When a bank has two branches in two different countries, it's international bank. So it's old-fashioned international place, which has two branches, one in London and the other in Paris. Bastille Prison. It was built as a fort. Bastille Prison also one of the most important places in this novel. It was built as a fort. You know the fort like a castle, the place that protect someone is built for protection. It was built as fort to defend the city of Paris from enemies and soon turned into prisons for those who opposed the king. Yeah. So this place was just like a fort to defend the city of Paris from enemies. You know that the French Revolution during the 15th century, there are a lot of attacks to the king's palaces. And there are a lot of forts to defend the city of Paris from enemies and soon turned this place, which is Bastille Prison. This place soon turned into a prison for those who oppose the king. Let's move to the character points. Just quick review about these characters in small points, in short points, in order to give you a hint about each one in this novel. The writer starts the chapter with many opposites and doubles. It was like saying it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. And the title itself is two series. You mean? So, two two different conditions and two places. At the beginning, at the first page, if you open the page right now, page 5, I think, so it's the first page, you're going to find that the writer starts the chapter with many opposites and doubts. It was the best times and it was the worst of times. And the title itself is two cities. Both cities, London and Paris, had their greatness and darkness, but England was luckier that it doesn't face the same violence that Paris does. Again, guys, again, don't worry. Both cities, London and Paris, had their greatness and darkness, but English was luckier that it doesn't face the same violence that Paris does. Yeah, it means the revolution in France left a big violence, a big conflict among people and power. So those people were attacking everyone in the streets, were making revolution every day in France. This this create violence. You know that's not there's no stability in France. England was luckier that it doesn't face the same violence that Paris does. Mail coach wends its way from London to Dover. The passengers must dismount the carriage and hike as it climbs a steep muddy hill. You know the passengers must dismount the carriage and hike as it climbs a steep muddy hill. That means the roads wasn't straight away. The roads was so difficult. There was cliffs. From out of the great mist equal fog. From out of the great mist, a messenger on horseback appears and asks to speak to Mr. Lorry. Mr. Lorry recognizes his voice and accepts his messages to wait at Dover for a young lady. Lorry tells him to return with his reply, recalled to life. And this is the title of chapter 1, Recalled to Life. From this title, my dear students, you can imagine that someone was about to die and he recalled to life again. Next morning, Lorry descends from his couch. Descends means go down from his couch at Royal George Hotel in Dover to meet Lucy. Lorry meets Lois, who thought that this meeting was about the property of her dead father. Lorry meets Lucy, who thought that this meeting was about the property of her dead father. Mr. Lorry declares the real reason that her father has been found alive and taken to the house of an old servant in Paris. And they are going there to get him. Lois goes into shock and her protective servant, you know, Miss Pross, rushed into to attend her. Let's have some question on the first chapter. While we read this question, I want you to imagine the events. Why, Mister, you're saying these questions before we read? I just want to brainstorm in your minds. I want you to I want to have you brainstorm it before reading the events of the chapter. But this doesn't mean that we don't read the chapter. No, we have to read it. Let's have question number one. As you see, who are the messengers? What did he want? It was Jerry Cruncher. He was asking for Mr. Lorry to deliver him a message from Tellence's bank. What was the message's content? The message content is to meet mid-Mosul at Dover. Was a shortened message so no one could understand it except the reader. The bank asked Mr. Lorry not to go directly to France and wait to Dover meet Mary Mosul. Lewis Minute. Yeah. What does Mr. Lorry's answer, recall to life, mean? Again, this question again. I think this is one of the most important questions in chapter one. What does Mr. Lorry's answer, recall to life, mean? This message refers to Dr. Manet, who will be rescued after 18 years in prison and brought back to old life through his daughter's love. Why were messages delivered in such code? Because times were very hard in France, so they must be very cautious. Why wasn't Mr. Lorry ready for this? Guys, you have to study this question very well. Why? Of course, reading these questions will help you to understand also the events of chapter one. Because times were very hard in France, so they must be very cautious. Why wasn't Mr. Lorry ready for this difficult meeting with Lassie? As a businessman, he wasn't looking forward to meeting with such an emotional matter. So how he could tell Lois that her father is still alive? He was ill prepared for such situations. What did Lois think about that meeting with Mr. Lorry? She didn't know why. The answer is she didn't know why she had been asked by the bank to meet that man under such circumstances, but she thought that it would be about her father's money. What did Lorry tell Lois? He told her that her father is alive and he had been taken to the house of an old servant in Paris and they would go there to bring them back to his life. Again, this question again. What did Lorry tell Lois? He told her that her father is alive and he had been taken to the house of an old servant in Paris and they would go there to bring him back to his life. How did Lorry's words affect Lois? Again, how did Lorry's words affect Lois? She was still and silent and the expressions of unworthiness. She was still and silent and were the expressions of awareness. And the last question, my dear students, for this session today, who did Mr. Lorry call for help? Mr. Lorry called Miss Press, who was rushed into the home like a general in battle, trying to reverse Lois. Of course, these are the most important questions in chapter one. Guys, I want you to read the chapter. Do not just focus on these events. You have to read the chapters, and these questions will help you a lot to understand the events of the chapter, inshallah. Next session, I'm going to reflect on the quotation in this chapter, but I'm repeating again, you have to read the chapter. Do not focus only the question, do not focus only the main characters and the people we share together. Thank you for today's session. The time is up. Thank you for today's session. I hope you get a great value of what I'm saying, and see you in the next session, inshallah. Thank you. ال-